Hello class, welcome to Biokaksha. Today we are going to learn about 3 rules or literally 5 rules of eco-geography. Alright, this is going to be Bergmann's rule, Allen's rule, Gloger's rule, which are very common, along with 2 other rules of EcoGeo. Okay, so starting with Bergmann rules, what it says, Bergmann has literally said that normally we see there is a relationship of body mass or body size, which is like, it is related to the surface to volume ratio. So what happens in small animals, the surface area is more and the volume is less, so the surface to volume ratio increases. But in case of large animal, what happens, their volume is more but the surface area is less, so that makes that the surface area to volume ratio becomes very low. As a result, if surface area gets reduced, we know that dissipation of heat becomes very difficult. But if the surface area is more, like if you spread the sand, a hot sand, it will radiate heat and it will lose heat very quickly. But if you keep that sand confined in a tall cylindrical vesicle, that sand will conserve the heat for a longer time. So this works in the case of animals and their body size also. So what happens that in hotter regions or in regions like deserts, these animals are seen to have smaller sizes or smaller masses of body. We see that the surface area is greater and they lose heat very rapidly, which is actually required for survival. Whereas in regions like polar regions, or where temperature is usually very low, that the animals need to conserve their body temperature. So in that case, we see they usually have larger bodies. For example, polar bears, because they have very larger bodies, they have high volume and the surface area is very less, so they conserve heat, they save heat, they don't have to expend their metabolic energy and waste it. They can actually conserve that energy and use it for other metabolic activities rather than production of heat. So Bergmann says that there is a relationship of body mass and which actually leads to temperature or latitudes of the earth. So there was a question in CSI net that which kind of body mass will actually change according to the latitudes. So basically we know latitudes, that is equator, tropics, temperate and polar regions. That means they are directly indicating temperature. So the relationship is indicating towards body size and latitude, which is nothing but the conclusion made by Bergmann's rule. Similarly, if we talk about greater body mass and small surface area to volume ratio, that will be directly related to conservation of heat and Bergmann's rule. So now coming to Allen's rule. What Allen has said is quite similar and an extension of Bergmann's rule. Allen has kept forward that in warmer regions we see animals having larger external appendages. So what are external appendages? External appendages like protrusion of the ears, limbs, different kinds of floppers or flippers, and tails and those kind of stuffs. All right. So in warmer region we see animals are having large external appendages, but in colder regions animals tend to have short. This is the reason, because when you have a large external appendage, you tend to dissipate heat or radiate heat. That is helpful in animals living in warmer or hotter regions of the earth. Whereas in colder regions, we will usually find that animals having short external appendages because they need to conserve that heat. Alright. So we see desert rats having a very long tail and very long and wide ears. But in case of snow wolves and polar bears, we see a very small tail and very small ears. Now, coming to Gloger's rule. What has Gloger said? It is kind of bit different than Bergmann or Allen's rule. Alright. So Gloger has tended to say that If we consider the scenario from equator to poles, we will see in equator, since the temperature is high, so animals are more prone to exposure to harmful UV rays. So we know that pigments like melanin actually provide us protection from those harmful UV rays. So we tend to see that animals living near equator have darker skin color due to hyperpigmentation or high pigmentation, whereas animals in colder regions or towards the poles tend to have a lighter skin color or less pigmentation, because there is less heat or less direct sun rays exposure, so they don't need that much product protection which is actually needed by the animals living in equator. So now, coming to the Jordan's rule, it comes very less in CSIR exam, but it's important to know that there is a relationship between temperature of water and the meristic characters in fishes. For example, if we see that with decrease in temperature, like if we go from equator to the poles, we will see there are increasing numbers of vertebrae, fin rays, and scale numbers in fishes. So, if you travel from tropics to the higher latitudes or from equator to polar regions, we'll see since the temperature is decreasing, so the number of vertebrae in marine fishes are increasing. Now coming to Rench's rule. What is Rench's rule? Rench's rule says that as the temperature lessens or becomes low, the birds have narrow wings. But with high temperature, birds tend to have wider wings. That is, with high temperature, since birds are endotherms, they need to dissipate more heat. So all the rule that we learned except for Jordan's rule, which are all related to endotherms, because fishes belong to ectothermal group, so that doesn't consider the Bergmann, Allen's, or Gloger's rule. But since birds and mammals fall into the endotherm group, we'll say that the BAG rule follows them. So you can remember it very easily in this sequence that BAG, B for body, A for appendage, and G for gauche. Gauche is a name of a color. So by B, Bergmann, we can remember body size. A, Allen, we can remember appendage, and G, gauche, that is color, or the color of skin, pigmentation. So with this, we come to an end of the video. Thank you. Subscribe my video if you feel that it is helping you, and please like the video.